Say goodbye to Builder Basic and hello to Bougie Airflow. Welcome back to the channel, The Professor's Workshop with Dr. Rick, where I don't just show you how to do things, but I teach you the how and the why behind it. In today's video, we're going to be replacing our old, outdated HVAC vent returns. Those things have been clinging to relevance since the 1990s, and well, it's time for an upgrade. So I'm at Worth Home Products, and this is a local company based right here in Houston, Texas, and they specialize in lighting and other accessories for your home. Now, the product that I actually came to purchase today are these luxury upgraded vent returns. And if you follow my channel, you know I like to support local businesses. So one of the cool things about this is it's a local-based company right here in Houston, Texas. And I was able to arrange the purchase of this item and come pick it up at will call. So let's go in and grab it now. It's so much quieter in here being able to talk than outside. But one of the things, I've had my eye on this product for a few years now, and that's because when I started my home renovation project, I realized that regardless of how nice I made these rooms look, I was still dealing with these old, ugly, outdated HVAC vent returns. And so I started looking around, and there just weren't a lot of products on the market. So I'm super excited to get this guy home and get it installed, where I'll show you how to install it and also some things that you should consider to make sure that you purchase the right one for your space. I gotta say, just from the initial impressions, you can already tell the difference in quality of this material versus the old grill that I have here for comparison. Now, they do sell this and their other products on Amazon, and I'll be sure to include the links to those products in the video description down below. But remember, you can always buy directly from the company itself, and not only will you save money doing that, but you better support our local businesses because you're cutting out the middleman and all of those fees that Amazon collects. So the first thing that we're going to do is detach the wooden grill from the metal frame. You can see the bracket is holding onto the metal frame. I take my hand and I push and pull, it allows that metal frame to clear the bracket. Now, these are called luxury upgrades for a reason. They are not inexpensive, especially when compared to those cheap contractor units that were put in all of our houses when they were built. But here's where we start to see some of the premium materials reflected in the construction of this product. Now, most common HVAC applications are going to use 20 to 22 gauge aluminum in the construction process. Now, we tend to think that the higher the number, the better something is, but in this case, it's inverse. So when it comes to the gauge or the thickness of aluminum, the lower the gauge, the better. This being a 16 gauge aluminum and having that extra thickness, it's rigid, better construction, greater longevity. It helps with sound dampening and vibrations, and then it is corrosion resistant. So now that we've covered a little bit of the nerdy stuff, I need to remove. Now, here's an example of why I said I wanted to replace these in my house, because you may think, well, no one ever sees that. That's in an entryway to a bedroom. Well, let me show you where and why I see it. So when I sit down on my couch,
Now what you see me doing here is just using a razor blade to score around the outside edges of the existing vent cover. This is an important part of the process that you don't want to skip because you can have caulking and paint residue over the years that's been built up around your existing vent cover. And what will happen is if you don't score that and separate that bond from your wall or your ceiling, when you go to pull that existing vent down, it's going to damage your ceiling.
All right, time to highlight a few things that you saw there. First, you want to make sure you use a mask. I use these N95s that are used for yard work and woodworking projects around the house because you don't want all of that dirt and dust falling down and breathing that. Let's talk screws. Your new kit is not going to come with any screws. So just hang on to the screws that you have when you take your old vent off of the wall or out of the ceiling. In the event that you need more screws for support, or maybe you lose these or something, these are number 8, 1-inch wood screws. Super easy to find, and again, I'll link these. Another tool that I really like are these magnetic nut drivers, and these are super cheap, easy to find, but you can see on the existing screw, this is just a flathead screw. And if this were in the wall, this is super easy to take out. However, when it's up over my head and I'm trying to take it out or put these back in, this magnetic nut driver, it will just, that I am not gonna lose that screw when I'm trying to drill it in to the ceiling up above my head. And so that keeps me from having to go up and down the ladder because I drop screws all of the time. You notice there was at one point I was like trying to hold things up above my head, and that was because I was afraid that old vent cover was just gonna fall down, and it's actually quite heavy. You don't wanna get hit in the head by that, especially if you're on top of a ladder. And so as you get to your last 2 screws, you wanna make sure that you use a hand, you support that as you take that last screw down. So now that we've covered those basics, let me talk a little bit more about choosing the right vent cover for your home. So you can see here the new vent cover, Max. So Max was not that interested in the vent cover. Simon is more interested in me than the vent cover. You guys ever tried filming a YouTube video with pets? It's sometimes nearly impossible. Okay, now that all the pets are out of the scene, let's talk about these vent covers. So you see the old ugly one that I've hated for a while, and you can see the new one. How do you choose the right vent cover for your home? When you look at the purchase options, you'll see that horizontal or vertical. One of the easy ways, always remember that from science class, is the sun sets on a horizon, otherwise it's vertical. So the horizontal slats is what I need for my configurations, and I'll show you why. This being horizontal is going to hide my ability to see up into that duct space, and so I'm not going to see the filter or the ductwork behind it. If the louvers are pointed towards me, you can see straight up above that into the space behind it. If the louvers are pointed away from me, I can't see above it. Point the louvers away from me. So here's another HVAC vent return here in my dining room. And you can see there, this one is just like the one that I'm currently doing, where I'm gonna need a horizontal vent, and it will hide my view up into that ductwork as I walk down my entryway. Now, because I can't see that vent from the opposite side, a horizontal vent here is going to work perfect. In the laundry room and pantry, you can see another HVAC vent return. Now this one, I could also do horizontal, and I would put it with the louvers facing that wall. So again, when I'm coming from my main space into the pantry area, laundry room area, I would not be able to see the ductwork or the vent behind it. I would be able to see up into the ductwork from this angle, but this is not a path where you are naturally going to look up, and so you're not even going to be noticing or looking at, but I can see it if I'm sitting at my kitchen counter. So this is another application where the horizontal with the louvers pointed away is going to benefit the aesthetics of my home. And there we have it. Now I could use the horizontal application in this one also. It would block my view when I came up the stairs into my game room. However, when I exit, I would be looking straight into the side of that vent, and I would see the air duct vent filter behind it. So by using the vertical application here and pointing my louvers away from me up towards that beam, it would block my sight into that from both directions. So it would be perfect application for a vertical. So hopefully that helps clarify the instances of where you should use a horizontal versus a vertical. And here's a perfect reminder to like and subscribe if you want to follow along on my home projects. This office and this whole entryway is going to be the next on my list. One last tip for you. You want to make sure that you use the correct measurements so that you order the correctly sized vent covers. You do not want to measure the outside dimensions or you're going to get the incorrect size. As you can see here, if we measure that, that gives us a little bit over 22 inches. And use the interior measurement. So you can see here, using that, we get 20 inches by 25. Here's where the instructions were a little bit fuzzy for me. So the orientation of that metal bracket is going to matter in terms of how we want our grill to face. And so you'll see here on the wooden grill that there are two types of brackets. L bracket looks just like that. And then if we were to flip this over, and this is going to be your bottom bracket. L bracket is going to be your top bracket. So if we go back to our metal housing that's going to go up into the wall, you'll see that retaining spring you want to make sure matches up with the top brackets on your grill. The side that has the L brackets to line up with the retaining spring. Now that took me a minute to figure out because I think the instructions are written with the anticipation that this is going into a wall, but again, it can be used in a wall as a replacement of a HVAC return, or it can be used in the ceiling. If it were in the wall, this would be top or bottom, which is what the instructions talk about, but in the ceiling, it's not going to be top or bottom. It's really front and back, or front and back. So just take a moment. It's really simple and easy though once you realize that all you've got to do is line up that L bracket with the retaining spring. If you line that bracket up with the retaining spring, then you've got top, bottom, based off of the instructions. Here's where that magnetic drill bit comes extremely handy. Now there's one last thing that we need to do if we're installing this into a ceiling application. If you're installing this into a wall, then it is perfectly fine the way that it comes to you shipped. But we are going to loosen these screws, and you can see where this one has that bracket sitting right against the edge. We're going to loosen these screws and we're going to adjust that bracket to where it looks like this one, to where that bracket is up about 1/4 of an inch onto that metal grill. That's just going to give us a more solid and secure connection with this mounted in our ceiling. Now you'll see that these vent covers are designed to work with air filters, and they will hold a filter up to 1 inch, and super easy to install. I actually have a pneumatic device designed to help you remember in the instructions. This is TGIF, which I remember is if thank God it's Friday, but it stands for top goes in first. So the side of your filter that says top, you want to put it in first. It's going to be on the top. So now that we have got our filter installed, we are ready for the final installation of the wood grill. I just had a bit of a disaster. The ceiling vent fell out of the ceiling. Now, thankfully, I wasn't standing underneath it when it did, so it didn't hit me, didn't hit the cat or the dog, but it did fall right out of the ceiling, and I managed to break it in a few places. Well, the PhD in me has to figure out, like, why did that happen? So I've spent the last 30 minutes looking at the hole in the ceiling and looking at that vent cover, trying to figure out, well, how did this happen? How could it fit so perfectly and easily when I had it on the ground? And then how did it just fall out when I had it in the ceiling? And I've come up with the reason, and the reason is simple: gravity. So let's take a look. If I'm inserting this into the top of the bracket, and then I push the bottom of the grill in a wall application, what happens here? Well, the weight of the frame due to gravity, it's gonna slide down ever so slightly, but that 1/4 of an inch allows that frame to click into place and then to slide securely in the bracket. And so that makes perfect sense. If we were installing to a wall, gravity would do the work for us. You're gonna insert, push, and gravity is gonna pull it down for you and lock it into place. However, if we're putting it into the ceiling, gravity is working against us. We're insert and push, and now gravity just wants to pull it down out of the ceiling. And so we gotta take that extra step to make sure that you insert, push, and then pull it back towards you. Not a lot, you'll feel it once it clicks. It's ever so slight, about 1/4 of an inch, but that allows that wooden grill, the metal brackets on the back of that wooden grill, to slide and lock into place. So you can see one of the brackets actually came off. So I'm just gonna take some screws, I'm gonna reattach this with some slightly larger screws, and you can see I cracked it. Not good. But because this is wood and it needed painted anyway, I'm just gonna put some wood filler on here and fix it. If it doesn't fit, then you must change the screws. Somebody watching this video just said you must have quit, and you've told your age with that. So I put this on to highlight the difference in the screws here. So the screws that came in the vent cover are these tiny wood screws. I've replaced them with these thicker wood screws, and you can see the difference. It's ever so slight, but it makes a big difference in terms of the stability in a ceiling application. Again, this isn't in the product instructions, but this is something that I would recommend that you do if you're putting it into a ceiling. If you're just putting it into the wall, you don't need to mess with the screws, it's gonna go right in. If you're putting it into a ceiling though, you're probably gonna want that extra stability. And so these are just wood screws, number 8, 1/2 inch wood screws. I'll put a link to them down below. So I've just went through and I've replaced the small silver screws that came with it with the larger screws for that little extra touch of stability. And now I'm confident that it'll hang up there without any problem. So here's where my YouTube channel is a little bit different. I leave my mistakes in my videos. I don't edit them out. And that's because if my experience can save you a little bit of time and hassle and heartache, then why not share those experiences instead of trying to make my video look perfect, like it's just a super easy, 100% beautiful install all the time. That's not how life works. So here's the silver lining in this though. Because this product is made of wood, then it is repairable. If this had been plastic, those hard plastics, it would have shattered, and that would not have been a product that would have been able to been fixed. So I am going to use some Famo. So I've already repaired the cracks in the other corners, but I've left this one here to show you how to repair it. You can see it's actually really small, and it's not going to be difficult to repair. I'm just going to take my putty knife. So use just enough material to cover the crack and leave a very slight elevation of material on top. And that's going to allow us to be able to go back and sand that down and get a super smooth finish.
So you can see I was able to get all four corners repaired, perfectly smooth finish. You'd never know that this guy had fallen out of the ceiling and been damaged at all. You will have some sanding dust, so just take a wet paper towel or a shop towel, rag, whatever you've got, just make sure it's damp and wipe it down. You'll get all of that dust off before you can then repaint it. So this guy comes with 2 coats of primer. You can paint it to whatever color you would like. I'm going to paint mine back white. I'll do that now, and then yes, finally going to get this installed. So we're going to make sure that we've got our L bracket in the correct side, and it's going to go into the spring side, and we're just going to put it in. And then we're going to push, and that's going to click into place. Once that clicks into place, you're going to pull it back a little bit, and that's going to set it. So just like that, that's now firmly set into place. So when I go to remove it, place a vent behind it, all you do is you take and you push towards the spring side. You'll hear that unclick. Now you pull this side down at an angle and pull it out.